Hello, my name is Morgan Brashear, and I am a senior scientist with P&G. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Payel Gupta, a practicing allergist and American Lung Association volunteer medical spokesperson, who's going to talk to us about dust and how it can impact the air we breathe in our own homes. So welcome, Dr. Gupta. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
To kick things off, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background with lung health.
Sure. So I am an adult and pediatric asthma, allergy, and immunology specialist. And what that means is that I see adults and kids in my office every day, and I treat them for their respiratory illnesses.
And what does your work with the American Lung Association entail?
So I am a volunteer national medical spokesperson, and I have the privilege and honor of being able to work with the American Lung Association to provide accurate, evidence-based information to the general public about lung health.
Why is indoor air quality something that people should be aware of?
People often concentrate on outdoor air pollution and pollen allergies, but indoor air quality is super important. And that's because we spend 90% of our time indoors and we're exposed to dust. And dust is a culmination of dust mite droppings, of dust mite body parts, and of our own body skin flakes. And so for people with asthma and allergies, this is super important because those people can oftentimes react to dust mite droppings.
That's so interesting. And are there reasons that dust and indoor air quality is especially important right now?
So as I mentioned, dust is made up of dust mite droppings, dust mite body parts, and the flaking of our skin. So with more time spent indoors, it's almost like a cycle where we spend more time indoors. That means we're flaking more of our skin. And actually dust mites live off of the flaking of our skin. And so then there's more dust mites in our environment, which means that there's more dust mite droppings to react to. So with all of that being said, indoor air quality is super important, and dust and taking care of dust is super important too.
So you mentioned the flaking of our skin cells and all of these dead skin cells from humans, but do humans really contribute, or do they shed enough to contribute to dust buildup in the home?
Absolutely. So surprisingly, one human being can shed 1.5 grams of human skin cells a day, which is enough to feed millions of these dust mites. That's definitely a lot of dust mites, and the more time spent at home again, the more of that we're going to have.
So what exactly are dust mites?
Dust mites are microscopic insects that we can't see with the human eye, and they're tiny little pests that generate dust.
And are dust mites everywhere?
So unfortunately, yes, they are everywhere. Actually, 4 out of 5 homes in the United States have detectable levels of dust mites in at least one bed in their home. And hundreds of thousands of dust mites can live in places like bedding, upholstered couches, carpets, rugs, curtains. So these are all the places that they can be found because, again, they live off of human skin cells, and human skin cells tend to accumulate in these areas. So it's no surprise that that's where we see most of our dust mites.
So there are clearly a lot of invisible elements to dust. So is it that it doesn't become a problem until you get that visual cue that dust is starting to accumulate? Or does the problem begin before you can actually see the dust?
So exactly. I mean, dust is always accumulating on surfaces, and by the time that we can actually see it visible, then it's really time to do something about it.
So I know we're probably all aware of those hot spots in the home where dust tends to accumulate, things like window blinds, bookshelves, but are there other places we should be paying particular attention to for that accumulation of dust?
Absolutely. So I can name a bunch, and it really depends on which part of the house we're talking about. But let's start with the bathroom. The bathroom sink, behind the toilet, light fixtures, and then in other parts of the home, fan covers, vents, the top of your refrigerator, microwave, picture frames. I could go on, and that's just a few of the places. But yeah, there's a lot of places to think about and to clean, unfortunately.
So dust is clearly an issue in homes. So I would love to hear, what can we do about it?
So it's actually quite easy. The American Lung Association recommends incorporating dusting into your regular cleaning routine. That can actually reduce the amount of dust and improve the overall indoor air quality of your home. And it only really takes a few minutes out of your day to effectively dust a space. So I recommend, maybe once a day, thinking about one room, trying to focus on that room and spending a couple minutes every day to kind of clean one room at a time.
That's a good tip. Are there specific tools that you would recommend using for the dusting process?
So it's super important to use a damp mop, a damp cloth, or a duster that can trap and lock the dust to reduce the amount that's stirred up into the air. So a lot of people use a dry cloth, but that doesn't work because it really needs to be moist, or it needs to be kind of material that actually picks up the dust. So again, locate areas around your home, like we've mentioned, baseboards, molding, blinds, shelves, and get to dusting.
So now that people are starting to transition back to their normal routines, is there any advice that you would give on transitioning their cleaning habits as well?
Yes, I'd remind them that actually I don't want them to change what they were doing during COVID-19. I think people are spending more time indoors, and we're really keeping their indoor environment and their homes super tidy. And I want to remind people to continue to do that. It's super important. We still spend a lot of time indoors regardless. So it is very important to continue to practice all of those dusting routines that we've all kind of started to incorporate into our lives because we were spending so much time at home.
Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Gupta. I certainly learned a lot. So if you'd like to learn more about dust and indoor air quality, go to lung.org and check out the Dust and Indoor Air Quality Briefing, an educational resource that the American Lung Association partnered with Swiffer to create, shining a light on what we know and don't know about dust and our indoor air.